And I guess we can mute until we're talking. So we don't have the feedback. Okay, yep, it's showing up on. Hey everyone. Okay, so we're going to get started in about 1 minute. I'm just going to wait for more people to join. Okay. All right. So, thank you, ladies. Thank you, ladies, for taking the time to speak today to the audience. I appreciate you. I'm going to give like short bios of each one of you. If you can go on mute until you speak, but I'm going to give every short bios of everyone, and then raise your hand when I say when I introduce you. So first up, we have Miss Queenie Johnson. So Miss Queenie is an award-winning educator from, as she says, America's finest city, San Diego. San Diego is a pretty awesome city. She's the go-to expert and the top earning for top earning business owners and celebrities. She's who they call when they want to transform the way they think and perform as a parent, leader, and business owner. As the founder of the School of Brilliant Thinkers, LLC, she's committed to training students from ages 7 to 77 on how to show up in their full power and change the world with their brilliancy. She has her master's degree in human development with a specialization in social change. She's known as the master teacher and creator of the signature programs Black School, Gutsy, and Mommy Big Brilliant. So thank you for joining us, and we can't wait to hear more about what you have to say. Ms. Erin Reed has nearly, if you read, Ms. Erin Reed has nearly 20 years of professional teaching and tutoring experience. Having taught kindergarten through 7th grade, Ms. Reed attended the University of Kansas, where she majored in elementary education with a minor in learning disabilities. She also attended the University of Missouri, Kansas City, and holds a BA degree in psychology. In 2013, after years of classroom teaching experience, Ms. Reed founded Tailor Made Learning. Since its founding, Tailor Made Learning has served students throughout the metropolitan Detroit area, Florida, and Georgia. And oops, we lost somebody here. When she comes back, but we have Tashia Jameson. Mrs. Jameson is an educator for, and right on time. So we have Mrs. Jameson. You can wave for us. I don't know if she's frozen, but she's in the blue shirt. But Mrs. Jameson has been in education for 10 years. She taught at Houston International School District, at Bruce Elementary in the 5th Ward. She's an early education 6th grade certified teacher and holds an English as a second language certification as well.
Hello?
Hey, can you hear
us? Oh, yeah. Hey, y'all.
Okay, good. I was just reading your bio.
What happened? I missed something.
Pardon?
Oh, okay.
I'm reading your bio. She received her bachelor's in sports management and communication.
My name is Tashia. I own a. Oh, you are? Go ahead.
This is where. So I was just saying that you played college basketball at the University of Michigan on a full athletic scholarship, where you received your bachelor's in sports management and communication, and this is also where you met your husband, who is the co-owner of Bright Learners Academy. Are we having a little technical issues with Tashia?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So I think we got a little lag with you, but so there we are. So I read it, introduced everybody, read everybody's bios, and I'll be checking
Yay.
periodically in the chat to see if anyone has any questions. So,
Yes.
the first thing I want to ask
Can y'all hear
everyone,
me?
yes, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear us? Okay, good. So, just a quick icebreaker to introduce yourself to the audience a little bit more. But I wanted you to share what you think your superpower is with the viewers. Tashia says go blue. Tanisha says go blue. So um, I wanted you all to share what your superpower is with the audience. So Erin, if you could go first.
I too play.
Can you say that one more time? Sorry.
I too played college basketball at the University of Kansas many years ago. But I believe that my superpower in education is being able to pinpoint the underlying causes of deficiencies in our students' learning. And so we look at where their deficiencies are, and we put together a tailored curriculum for each of our students. And so if I were to,
Okay.
that would be my superpower.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. And Miss Queenie, what do you think your superpower is?
I heard from the students that my superpower is making them feel powerful. And once you identify those deficiencies, like you said, helping them tap into their power, that's my superpower.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. And Miss Tashia, what do you think your superpower is?
I believe my superpower is my ability to relate to my kids. Um, that is a very hard trait, is to build trust with students. So I think that is one of the things that makes me a great teacher is building that trust, because once kids trust you, then they'll be more open to learn from you. If they don't trust you, they don't feel safe, they're not going to maintain or learn new information that you need them to learn to be able to get to mastery. So that's my superpower.
Yeah, absolutely. And I didn't introduce myself, but for anyone who doesn't know me, my name is Maisha Williamson, and I'm the founder of the Best College Prep. A lot of you might know me from STEM Girl Academy coding classes as well. And I'll just share my superpower. So I went to school with Tashia as well, University of Michigan, and I studied mechanical engineering. So very hard subject. My best subjects were physics and math. And my superpower is that I'm able to take complex subjects or subjects that students see as very hard and break them down into simple, easy steps to help them build confidence in those subjects. So that would be my superpower. Okay, great. So I shared your bios, but if you can give a little bit more information about your
Yes, ma'am.
experience and who you are beyond what we shared in the bio. Aaron, again, we can start with you.
I didn't catch who was you starting with.
Oh, you, Aaron.
Okay, I'm sorry, it was broken up a little bit.
Okay.
With my experience, as you stated in the bio, I had a number of years of teaching when I decided to start tailor-made learning. And tailor-made learning was birthed out of a desire to provide students with a tailored curriculum that they weren't afforded to in traditional school. And so at the time, I walked away totally from the classroom and dedicated myself to tailor-made learning, where we serve our students not just in tutoring, but homeschooling. And so since 2013, we have grown to a staff of tutors that span all over the country. So we try to recruit some of the best teachers in the nation to serve our students. And although we're growing, we try to keep, just as a lady stated, a a home feel where our students are related to. A lot of our families have stayed with us. We just had a student that graduated from Cass Tech, Detroit Cass Tech High School, and we've served her family for actually 12 years. And so we've tutored the entire family. They were with us before it was tailor-made learning. They stayed with us until all of the students graduated. So we take pride in being able to forge those relationships with our families. And so again, I would like to also just thank you for having me on today. It's an honor.
Absolutely. I'm honored to have you here and thank you for coming. But yeah, no, that says a lot about your organization when a family is able to stay for that long and trust you with all of their children. So that really says a lot, and that's awesome. Okay. Queenie, anything else that you would like to share with the audience about your experience or what you do?
So my background is from charter school, non-public school, private school, homeschool. So I have a wide array of background that I bring and understand what happens to students in each of those systems and each of those paradigms. I understand the privileges that students are afforded when they're in certain school systems and the downside of when they're not in certain systems. One of the things that I want to just reiterate tonight is that as an educator who I wanted to be a teacher, teaching is not a default career for me. Like as a child, when my mom said, "What do you want to be?" It was always, I wanted to be a teacher. And so for me, this is like an incredibly important time historically where the spotlight is on education. And although this is a very difficult time for many families to try to figure out what to do, I also think there is a blessing in this to where we can really start to critically look at our education system and see how we can really move it forward into new technologies, new systems, and new ways of thinking about how children can be educated. So I just want to open up that window a little bit for parents to just know that we are some great resource here to help you think through this in very creative and innovative ways tonight.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. And Tashia, anything else that you want to share about your organization, about yourself that I didn't share in the bio? We can't hear you. Still can't hear you. Hello? Can you hear us? Aw.
Hello? Yes, yes.
Okay.
So Bright Learners is a very unique place where we serve a need for our kids that are in, I guess people would say, a more affluent suburb, but because a lot of our kids are brown, we are being underserved. So our school goes pre-K 3 through first grade, and I am the kinder first grade teacher. I've been a certified teacher for 10 years. Um, and we help create opportunities for our kids to really shine and build self-confidence, to be able to go out into big school and excel among their peers. With this whole COVID thing, it really opened up a door of opportunity for me to come up with strategies to ensure that our kids are getting what they need. I think a lot of times when you're dealing with suburb school districts, they know mom and dad have a lot of disposable income. So they tend those teachers tend to be on the lazier side. So they know mom and dad will spend money to go to Kuman and Sylvans. Well, when I was teaching in urban districts, well, I am Kuman, I am the Sylvans. So I wasn't afforded the opportunity with my kids to help them. So I've noticed when I son into school out here, they were very run of the mill, teach down the middle, and there was no differentiation. And I would ask them questions, and they would say, I don't know. So I wanted to just give an opportunity for our parents to have something different, to rewrite the narrative for our kids to have a more well rounded, differentiated, individualized experience.
Oh, okay, absolutely. That is so amazing. And you mentioned COVID and this whole COVID experience, and this is why we're having this conference. This question is for anyone, but um, so there's been a huge shift, of course, in the last 6 months to homeschooling because of this pandemic. And then some states like Florida and I think Texas are sending the kids back to school, and parents are like, no, we're not having it. And some parents, even their schools are having virtual school, but they just feel that their child is not suited well for the public virtual school. So a lot of parents are like, we're going to do our own thing. We're going to homeschool our kids. So, what advice do you have for parents who are homeschooling? One of the questions that a lot of parents have is, will my kids meet the state standards? Will my kids learn? How do I even start a homeschooling curriculum? And
Mhm.
anybody can take that first. So, who would want to take that? Whoever wants to take that first.
Um,
Okay,
I'll
Aaron.
take it since I live in
Oh, okay. So we're gonna
Texas.
see you and Aaron.
Okay. I live in the state of Texas where they have opened up schools completely. Depending on your school district, will depend on what your plan is. So, like I said, today I officially unenrolled my son and I started to homeschool him. We start school August 10th. But my homeschooling is a little different. So, I've recruited the help of the three best teachers I know. And although they're thankfully employed with local ISDs, but because they have to do everything virtually, it gives them more freedom to come in and see these are all parents of mine. So they want they understand the culture and the family of our preschool, and they know those kids and they want to help our kids. So they're doing we're doing a virtual option for those kids who are just immune systems are too fragile to come in, but everybody else is coming in. We're having like a mini school. We have an ELA and social studies teacher, and we have a science and math teacher. And then I have an interventionist coming in to give instruction. So we're really one room schoolhouse idea with second, third, and fourth graders. And we're really putting it to work without the restrictions. So I would say the number one thing that will help you is knowing your state laws. The state of Texas is very free with homeschooling, but every state is not like that. The state of Texas, if you homeschool your child, you don't have to give any paperwork to the school, and they should matriculate to the next grade. So they can't say, "Oh, we're going to hold you back because we're homeschooling you." Nah, you can't do that, and they can't ask for, "Well, what did you study?" That is illegal. And I think a lot of times, from what I'm hearing from our local parents who have decided to pull their kids and put their kids in an environment like Bright Learners, is the school districts are trying to scare them out of pulling their kids. Well, if you pull your kid, you can't get out. And I'm like, no, that's not how this works. If you are zoned in that school district in the state of Texas and you unenroll your children, you can always re-enroll at any time and they have to take you. They have to make room for you. So I think the number one rule is know your laws. The number two rule is set a structure that is conducive for your family. So, Bright Learners, although we're homeschooling, it's more of school environment, just in a smaller setting. But why that is important for my families is a lot of my parents still have to work. So they can't afford to be home with their kids. They need a space where they know their kids are getting educated, but they have a space for them to come. And that's where Bright Learners come into play.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing that. And Aaron, you had something to share as well. Michigan, does Michigan have similar laws where you can pull the student out and you can still put them in when you're ready? And if you can talk more about that, I believe Illinois, Michigan, Texas have similar laws, and that's where most of our viewers are from.
Yes, absolutely. Michigan actually was one of the last states to legalize homeschooling about
Mhm.
27 years ago, and
Wow.
but it is very free. So we have students that we've homeschooled over the years. Actually, we just had a graduate this year. We've had graduates. One of our students goes to Hampton University, but just what Tashia said, you have to know your laws. Michigan is very free. You can. We've had students that we've homeschooled due to illnesses. They were able to. We handled their grades. We handled their transcripts, and they were able to take that transcript to the high school that they actually graduated from. But any parent that is looking to transition to homeschooling, I would advise them to really take a hard look at the reasons why, because homeschooling requires it's a major undertaking if it's done correctly, and it requires a commitment. And so, I encourage parents to really look at the reasons why and do a lot of research on the things that need to be done to homeschool. And as Tashia said, I will piggyback off of her when she said that you have to decide based off of your family's needs, the work schedule, how many kids you have, how many kids you're homeschooling, what your homeschooling style is, what your children's learning styles are, what is the best environment for them. Some kids need to work alone, some need to work in a group, some need more hands-on. Just being able to understand and really think through all of those things. I would also advise parents to be very flexible. A lot of parents, one parent in particular that I'm thinking of, she went into the homeschool environment with a traditional school mindset. And one of the things that I told her was, you took your son out of school to give him something different. And so you don't want to recreate what you left in a home environment. Otherwise, it's not going to work for him. So it really, parents have to, I encourage parents to really open up their mind and really begin to explore what real education is. And we will realize that we can find education in so many different things. But you mentioned curriculum, and I don't want to get, because I know there's a portion of it where we get to this. I just actually did a whole series a few weeks ago, a 4-part series on homeschooling. But as far as curriculum, there are many different types of curriculum. You can have your curriculum written. In the case for tailor-made learning, we have homeschool consultants that actually put together a tailored curriculum for our students. If they opt to purchase a box, what we call a box curriculum, we help them through that process as well. And so again, when you're thinking about homeschooling your children, there's just so many things that you want to look at. The courses, the topics you want to cover, even asking your children what are some things that they would like to learn, some of their interests, because the whole process of homeschooling requires their commitment and buy-in as well.
Thank you for those points. And I really like your point about you pull your child out of school. You don't have to create the same exact environment that they had in traditional school. You have the flexibility and freedom to do more. And Queenie, if you could address that a little bit more, if you could talk about how do you create student-centered learning? How do you create an environment where students can thrive? And how do you make sure that, I mean, some of the parents are still going to put their kids back in school later, but while we have this time where they're at home, how can you make sure that they're learning, but also learning what they want to learn? If you can just speak more on that.
Yeah, so my background is in progressive education. And so even when I was in the classroom, I worked in very, very progressive schools that actually were so different that children developed their curriculum, that we didn't necessarily have curriculum in a box. We designed it all ourselves. And so now that I'm not in the classroom anymore, my business, the School for Brilliant Thinkers, we actually work with families to do exactly what she just said, which is how do we create a plan that really works for the child, based on the child's learning style, based on the child's interest, and at the same time create high expectations for our students so that they understand what learning is, what internal motivation is, and how do we teach children to guide their own education, right? So that's a very high level way to homeschool, right? If you're not at that space, let's reel it back. You're like, I just want to make sure they're getting the state standards, right? And so the first thing you want to do is just pull your state standards, right? Like in California, I just type in California state standards for math, right? For English, or you can just look at the Common Core standards. The other thing I want to talk about is making sure that when you're designing your homeschool situation, that you might, before you go all the way to homeschool, is there an independent study program that's connected with your current school that your child can enroll in the independent study program where the school still provides the curriculum and that they're actually just doing that independently at home, and you can act as a guide and you're not developing all the curriculum from scratch. The other thing that you might want to consider is there an online school that you want your child to attend? Sometimes we use these terminologies interchangeably, but a homeschool is when a parent turns their home into a private school and that it becomes the homeschool. A child who's doing independent study is still enrolled in a school, but they're doing it at home. And then you have there's another option. Let me see. I wrote it down. Independent. Oh, online school or virtual school. That's when you're working with an online program that actually matriculates your child through a program. All of these are options. There are even schools that have a hybrid of all of those options. So it's still school, but they go to school only 2 or 3 times a week, and then they do the rest at home. So that's like their first step. Let's just figure out which format might work best for our family. After we've looked through what are our child's needs, what are their strategies that work best for them, are they more visual, hands-on, all those types of things you need to consider as a parent. As we said, this is a big undertaking, but I truly believe you are your child's first teacher. There's no school in this country that will be more loving and responsible for your child than you will be as the parent. So even if you bring your child to me, as much as I love children, you are still your child's first teacher. The other thing I want to touch on is what we talked about in terms of being open to curriculum, right? It doesn't have to look like math, science, reading where I'm just sitting at a desk all day. Like, consider being out in the open. How can you make your neighborhood your learning lab? And that is going to be the cool part that we can talk more about as we get into different questions. But making your environment your learning lab and getting your child to be as curious as possible. Right now, I'm working with a student, and we started generating some questions about things he's interested in. He's 9 or 10. I'm actually going to homeschool him this year. And some of the questions he had is like, why are people so mean? Why are people bad? Like, who invented money? Where does electricity come from? So then as he initiates these questions, it's my job as the educator to develop units of study around his thinking to really pull out and put in skill sets that he can develop through thinking, reading, writing, all of those areas.
Right. Thank you for that. I used to work with this group of students on the west side of Chicago, and they asked one day, Miss Maisha, why is Chicago so segregated? You got Chinatown, you got this town. So we watched some videos around why Chicago was segregated, and we're able to create essays around that, learning, reading. So it is really awesome because that's history, history, writing, essays, language, all in one. So I thank you for touching on that point. I wanted to stop really quick before my next question and make sure I answer a question that we had in the audience. How do I create a balance of working while homeschooling or virtual learning?
Can I just say that in schools, kids are there for 6 hours of the day. There's probably about 90 minutes to 2 hours of that. That's just like rotating, moving around, transitioning. So
Right.
now we're already at about 4 hours of the day. Then there's playground, maybe there's the library. So let's not try to do a 9 to 3 schedule or 7 to 3 schedule. Like, I think 3 to 4, and maybe you all can tell me, like 3 to 4 solid hours at home every day, I think is enough for a child. So, and I think with that being said, then as a parent, you can look at your schedule and say, okay, here's the 2 hours we're going to get in the morning. Here, we're going to do it at night. It doesn't have to feel like, oh, they're in school.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody else want to speak on that?
Just that, again, just as Queenie said, that you don't have to think outside the box. Learning is learning, and because you're taking the plunge into home education, you're the director of that of it. So you're going to make the schedule. So you're going to make it that's works and more conducive to your schedule. And like just as Queenie said, 3 to 4 hours typically is all that you need during the course of the day. A lot of our homeschool students only go 4 days out of the week. And so that Friday, they may link up with a homeschooling group and do other activities like physical activities, music, social activities, and just kind of fellowship with one with another. And so again, the 3 to 4 hours is really solid and it's intensive because you're working in a small group. We're working in a classrooms 8 hours a day, we typically have anywhere between 25 to 30 students and sometimes more. And so when you're working with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 students in a family, you're looking at a more intense learning environment, and so they're going to need those breaks. That is a lot of learning for one day.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. And then another question was, how do I create a structured environment for learning at home? So I guess the question is, I got the home office, I got the kitchen, my husband's working at home, how do I make sure that I create a space where the kids can focus? Yep, go ahead.
So just find a place in the home that you can work. It may be in the basement. I'm sorry. It may be in the basement, but you want to create a space where they work best. Again, each child is different. I was always one of those type of students that I have to work, and I'm still that way. I have to work with some music on or with the TV on. And my parents used to tell me, my mother is a retired teacher. And so my parents used to always say, turn the radio off. How can you study like that? And I had to explain to them that that's how I actually block it out. And I'm actually able to focus better that way. And so how you structure your space will also depend on the space that you have available, as well as how your children or your child learns best. So if they're in an environment where they're very artistic, you want to create an artistic environment. If they're very hands-on, you want to create a hands-on environment. And so again, when we say structure, we have to be open about what structure means specifically for your family.
Yeah, thank you for touching on that. Queenie, go ahead.
Well, I just want to say it's like this is the hardest thing for most teachers in the classroom. How do you establish an environment where students can navigate it easily and clearly, and as a parent that's working from home, so that you're not being disrupted all the time, right? And so this is where your environment, your systems, and your strategies all have to align strategically. So what I would recommend is for you to spend some time designing the environment. What does the environment look like, as she just stated, but also where are the supplies in the environment? Where do our books go? So that then I would spend just a day or two rehearsing, where do we get our supplies from? Where do we go in the environment if we need something? Then the second piece of that is, what is our schedule that we've decided? Rehearse with children. Not enough adults spend enough time modeling with children what the actual environment looks like. How do we move around the environment? What's the schedule for our environment? And then what to do when we need help, when we get stuck in the environment. So set up strategies for if they're stuck. Well, the first place to look is I wrote the chart on the wall, so check the wall again, right? The second thing is, okay, then if you don't know, if there's a sibling, ask your sibling. And if there isn't a sibling, then you can come to me. In classrooms, we say like ask three and then me, but at home, you can sort of set up the same sort of system. The other thing that we want to talk about is what are the options for if that space isn't working that day. Sometimes I love working in my office. Other times I like working on my sofa or on my kitchen table. Well, what happens if the designated spot isn't working for your child? Can you set up a default system where they can work as well? If you can just plan out all the little aspects of it, it will run so much smoother for you. When is the lunchtime? How many times can they go in the kitchen? Do they have to ask you? What are the snacks for the day? Like all of this, once it's in play, then you can start worrying about curriculum and focusing on them.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to address this question a little bit as well. I work with older students, and I know a lot of people who just have younger students, but sometimes kids might live in a place where they might not have their own desk. They just don't have their own space for desks. But I think it's important to have like a working space or a dedicated space that they can have. And sometimes that dedicated space can be mobile. So I tell my kids to get a lap desk, get one of those pillows maybe, or some pillow they can put on their back as they sit up, and then get a shoebox. And their equipment that they're going to use to work is in the shoebox. So then they have their mobile desk, and they can take their mobile learning area wherever they want to throughout the home or where they're working that time. Another good thing is to have digital clocks around the house. So if you have a schedule and like you have that written schedule, there's big digital numbers in different rooms around the house. So kids know what time it is and know if it's time for their learning time or like what their schedule. So that was just some ideas that I would have. Okay, so if there's any more questions, please don't hesitate to put those in the chat. So we've covered a lot of things, but
I think somebody has some background noise. The feedback is really loud. Just want to check on that.
I'll just continue to mute. It might be me. I don't know why it's doing that. Hello? 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 Okay, that sounds better.
Yeah, I think that you may have it playing on the background and we can hear.
Oh, okay. I don't think so.
Okay.
I deleted out it.
Okay. All right.
I don't know what's going on. Sorry, guys. Okay. So someone says, I have 2 children in high school, freshman and junior. Join the call late. I want to transfer both from local public high school to homeschool. Laws regarding curriculum choice to ensure they will be college ready. Unemployed, so funds are limited. What curriculums do you recommend? So that is a great question, and that leads me into the next question that I was going to ask. What are the best resources online for students and for creating curriculum? What are the best resources that parents can use if we don't have any money or if we have money to create curriculum for our children? I can start just for the high school question since I work with high schoolers. Khan Academy will be your best friend. Set up an account for you as a parent on Khan Academy and set up an account for each of your children. Khan Academy has curriculum, videos, and curriculum for each grade and subject matter. And you as a parent, you can assign them activities and you can see if they did them or not, or what videos they watched. And Khan Academy will give them quizzes on each subject. So you can guide your student through stuff on Khan Academy. I would also listen to the video, what we said earlier in the video about creating a student-centered curriculum. But Khan Academy is where you start to make sure that they are prepared. The student's probably going to need to take the SAT and ACT. Khan Academy will also prepare them for that. Like I said, they can take the exams, retake them, and you can monitor their learning so you can keep them honest in Khan Academy. And then I would get follow up workbooks. YouTube is going to be your friend for high schoolers. So you can really get workbooks, free worksheets online. But I think that would be the best resource. Any other suggestions? Anyone have? How do we create? Who was that? Okay, go ahead.
There's also Easy Peasy is quite popular. Ambleside Online. They have Puritan's Homeschool, the classical curriculum, and these are all ones along with Khan Academy. You have Hippocampus, Freedom Homeschooling, and so if you go to just Google free homeschool curriculums, you will get a myriad of curriculums that you can find, and you can kind of research through and see which ones are the best fit for you. Some are geared toward more of a Christian curriculum. Some are more secular. Some are more classical. And so there is a lot online. If you just type in, do a Google search and just say free homeschool curriculum. And if you can do that, I guarantee you that there will be you will find a lot of information.
Okay, thank you.
I think that it's really important that parents don't feel like homeschool means they have to start from scratch. If you don't have the capacity to do that, I wouldn't jump into that. I would really take a first option and see, is there an online virtual school that I can enroll my child in? That's a free public school. That is a very viable option. So you don't have to feel almost cornered to do the homeschool option. Because even if you're homeschooling, even if there's free curriculum, there's still a big learning curve. And so you definitely don't want to find yourself adding a whole new job on top of trying to figure out your own job with that. So I would say the first step is to find free public schools that do online learning first. There are many of them across the country that are all certified, they're accredited, and that your child can still move correctly through their grade. So that is a viable option before you jump headfirst into homeschooling.
Okay, thank you for that. That's really good information. Okay, so how do we determine what is success for our kids? Will our kids be behind if not in a traditional school? And we talked about this a little bit more, but can we dive a little bit deeper into how do we create student-centered learning? How do we create curriculum around what the student wants and their interests and desires? Even if we have them in traditional school, how do we supplement that? Because we have more freedom now, right? We're like the director of our kids' education. So how do we make sure that we're supplementing our students?
Start with passions. What are their passions? What are they interested in? Interest-based education goes a long way. And I wanna let Ms. Jamison kind of dive into it, and then I'll follow up with anything if I have to add afterwards.
Okay. Yeah, I think we lost her, but
okay.
Yeah. Yeah, she had a great virtual option. I wanted her to share, but we can email the information to everyone's online. But Erin, did you have anything to say? Like, how do we create student-centered learning? How do we make sure that the student is directing their learning, or how do we supplement that?
One of the things that tailor-made learning does, we take our students through a battery of 2 assessments. One will be in the various academic areas, whether they're being homeschooled or just supplemented. We look at those academic areas and take them through a diagnostic assessment. So we're able to look at the standards, our Common Core standards, and look at the areas that they're weak, the areas that they're where they have strengths. We also look at what we call Mindprint. So we have a partnership with Mindprint Learning. And so we take them through a diagnostic that evaluates 10 different learning traits. So when we walk away from that, we are able to not only see what their strengths and weaknesses are academically, but we also have a print as such. You would think of a fingerprint. No, one fingerprint is alike. We will be able to take a mind print, and we're able to look at how they reason, how they process, what their executive functioning skills are, what their memory is, and we're able to put together a learning plan. So now we're able to say, okay, well, they work best with more hands-on learning. And we are teaching the same concepts, but we're presenting it in a way where they best process it. You may have students that are more visual, and so, although we're teaching those, we're gearing that toward what their actual strengths are, so that they're able to receive the information in the way that they learn it and understand it best.
Absolutely, that makes sense. Do you have anything to add, Queenie?
Yeah, I think that number one, identify the core skills that you really want to strengthen. So, one of the things I do is something called a brilliancy plan, and we look at these 6 domains of brilliance for children, and we really identify, for me, what are the underlying thinking skills that need to be developed and matured a little bit more, right? And then my goal is, how do I wrap around content that will help them stretch in those areas of thinking? And so with an assessment, like we both talked about, then once you have the assessment, you kind of go out into the world and say, okay, what is their passion? What is their interest? Somebody might be interested in biology and fish and all that kind of stuff. So then how can we wrap what they're interested in and start investigating and creating curriculum and lesson plans around that? Another student might be interested in sports. How can we use sports as a way to do not only the math, how can we write about it? How can we just really dig in through this concept of sports? So that's why we need the assessment first to see where they're at. And then once we get the assessment, we can wrap around the curriculum in and under and through it to drive their learning.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I just want to say, one of the things that I do with my students is I like to show them somebody out in the field who does what they're interested in or does something related to what we're learning about. So usually it's through virtual chats. So if I'm teaching them computer science, I'll get a developer that fits their demographic and who's usually young, so they can talk to the developer, talk about what they do. They can see that they have similar interests to the developer, and they can also see that someone who looks like them does this. So that's something I like to do. Even if they don't want to be a biologist, but we're learning about biology, it's really cool to meet a biologist to see what biologists do. How do you use biology in the real world? Like, can this be a career? Um, you know, a lot of, or a mathematician, for instance. One of my favorite things that my math teacher did was brought a mathematician in to our classroom, because I'm like, how are we going to use this? What will this like? When will this be relevant? And he just showed us how he used math in his career and how he used math in his job, and it really opened our eyes to the power of math and showed us that it wasn't something that they were just teaching us for no reason. So even introducing students to people who do what you're learning about in the real world could be really helpful. And now that we have Tashia back on, someone asked a question about virtual schooling options, on alternative schooling options. So I know that you have an option for virtual school, and can you tell us like more about what virtual school is?
Sure.
Um, you're pulling your student out of the regular school, and why this might be an option instead of like just trying to homeschool your child yourself.
Well, technically, we're calling it homeschool, but like I said, we're leveraging the teacher relationships that I have for kids to be able to get really high quality education for a really decent price. And these teachers are adding this to their already full workload, who are willing to help these kids really maximize their learning. So Houston, they call them school pods, where public school teachers who don't want to be in the classroom or uh, uh, are trying to venture on their own, they have a little mini school within their own community. And that's what Right Learning is doing a little mini school. What's cool about it is I tell people all the time, and a good teacher is not somebody that pats you on the back and tells you a good job, but a good teacher is somebody that can take you from your potential, mold you, and expand you and send you out into the world. So, what does that mean? That means somebody who can pick your brain apart, make you think critically, higher levels of thinking, being able to see your potential and bring your potential to its full capacity. Those are good teachers. A lot of kids will never have that experience. So I tell people all the time, I said, the fact that my son gets to experience these three teachers that we have in place, I want to cry. And one of them is a black male teacher. My son has never had a black male teacher. Um, I was in high school before I had a black male teacher. So I think it is setting up this virtual school because the kids will have access. I have kids in Arizona that are doing it. I have some folks in Michigan who will get on a platform. They'll be able to talk and interact with their teacher. Their work will be uploaded so they can do work similar to their classmates. It's just getting that experience because a lot of parents are nervous about homeschooling, but this is able to give their children school, but without the restraints of school. So without state testing. That was one of the reasons why I pulled my son because we're going into third grade. And I refuse to have him be responsible for a STAR test under this kind of stress and situation. Not my son's first testing experience is going to be like this. This is not it. Son would probably do well on the test. I mean, he's pretty bright, so I would doubt his abilities, but I'm not going to put him in a position where any of his abilities are questioned because my son is a brown boy and we're not treated the same. So I want to make sure that I'm putting him in the best position possible to be successful on his level. And what I love most about these teachers is they're very good at differentiating. So, my son reads on a fifth grade level, even though he's going into third grade. Well, we're not going to have you read third grade text. We're going to have you read on your level to give you some challenge. So that's kind of what we're doing at Bright Learners for our early learners because we're only focusing on kinder, first, second, third, and fourth.
Thank you for sharing that. I do have feedback over here. I don't know where this comes from, but thank you for sharing that. Yeah, so she mentioned a little bit about like school pods, and I just wanted to state a lot of people had questions about that, and we'll talk about that more tomorrow. But a lot of parents are coming together and creating small learning environments, either virtual or in person. Especially for younger kids. Younger kids have a very hard time with virtual learning. So parents are matching with families in their neighborhood and meeting in a garage or meeting in one room in a house and hiring teachers to just teach those 3 or 4 kids. And the families are agreeing to socially distance and things like that. So I just wanted to have you understand what that was. I see more younger parents doing that. For the older kids, I see older parents of older kids having them in the virtual school or having them in the public school district and then hiring tutors or other instructors to supplement the learning because older kids have a better time with virtual learning, but they just might not get all of that teacher interaction that they would have at school. So those are the trends that I'm seeing. Do we have, so we're almost at time. Do we have any more questions? Veronica Franklin, Aaron asked about your diagnostic test.
Mhm.
Do you do the diagnostic test? Do you charge for just taking that diagnostic test? I guess she wants to know a little bit more about that.
Yes, we do. If you want to learn more information, you can contact us. You can shoot us an email at contact@learning tailormade.com, and perhaps I can put it can be put in the chat, but contact at learningtailormade.com. That's learning, TAILORMADE.com. And we can get you set up for the diagnostic. So your child will take it, and then we will come back for a debriefing. So I will walk you through the diagnostic so you can understand the findings and what are the implications regarding how to best instruct your child based off of those findings.
That's where
Okay,
they
I
can.
can't hear you.
Okay, so that's where they can
But
best reach you for anything.
yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And can you tell where you're at on social media and where everybody can find you?
You can find us at Tailor Made Learning, TAILOR Made Learning. You can find us there. You can also call us at 844-TML 1501. 844-TML 1501. You can shoot us a message through Facebook. We do respond to inquiries through Facebook as well.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. I don't see any more questions. Any final words from anyone? And then after your final words, you can share where we can find you as well.
My final word is to not only think about the academic learning that has to take place during this year, but to consider just mindset strategies, body strategies, their nutrition, their health. Consider self-regulation skills, like their ability to self-manage, to be responsible, to carry a plan and follow it all the way through. So really looking at a 360 understanding of your child and not being so pigeonholed into the reading, math, and science, right? Your child is a whole child that brings a whole experience into this world with whole gifts and whole perspectives. And let's look and use this time to really activate all of those skill sets. Your child might be doing really, really well in one subject, and they might be struggling in another subject, not because they can't ascertain it, but because maybe there's something going on in another area that's impacting their ability to grasp it. And so this is a great time to really dig into and delve into why and what's going on there. And that's something that I do with my brilliancy plan. Let's look at the 6 components and let's identify where they're strong at and where they need to be stretched at. So you can always find me at missqueenie.educates on Instagram. You can always email me at hello Miss Queenie, HELLOMS Queenie @gmail.com. And I will definitely do my best to direct you and support you.
Thank you. And any final words, Tashia, and where they can find you? Okay, I think we lost her for a second again. But so I just want to say thank you, ladies, so much for coming. My final words would be to piggyback off what Queenie said. Like, we have a very special situation right now. I know it's stressful for us, but we can really, really mold and be the director of our children's education. We want to make sure that our children are not just prepared for school or prepared for college, but they're prepared for life, right? So we can show them how to do your taxes, how to balance a budget, you know, how to cook a meal. We can really make sure that when we send them out, that they can handle things on their own without falling apart. What are some things that you wish you knew before you went out into the world, and make that as a lesson, right, for our kids, especially the older kids. Kids don't know how to do taxes, don't know how to balance a budget, don't know about interest rates, don't know about car loans, things like that. Those are good math skills to learn, good budget advice. Like, and think about what books they can read, financial literacy books, essay writing books. So really think about those things and make sure that we're integrating that into our children's education. All right. And how to be independent. That it is so important. How to be independent, how to clean up, you know, how to organize, things like that. So that is what I will leave you with. And you can reach me the Best College Prep on Facebook, and you can DM me and I will be responsive there. And okay, I think that's all. Thank you, ladies. Thank you so much for joining. This was so amazing. This is so great. And I'm pretty sure that everyone enjoyed this information. This was so helpful. So thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you.